I remember when Marvel made the announcement that they were going to make Iron Man, I almost lost my mind. The fact that we were getting Marvel comic book characters outside of Spider-Man was just something I could have only dreamed about.
I wouldn't say I was a comic book fan when this first Iron Man movie came out. I knew who Iron Man was, but I didn't know much about him. I had heard of the character. I was a superhero fan for sure because I watched a lot of cartoons, but I didn't know much about Iron Man, and this movie was just fascinating to me when it came out. I don't think I saw it in theaters, honestly. I remember watching reruns of it on TNT and stuff like that over and over again, and I would watch it every single time it came on, and not knowing much about a character and then, you know, seeing such a great film come out of it, it was amazing. Like, I compare this movie to the early days of comic book films, like the X-Men's, the Spider-Mans. This was right on the end of that era and started a new era, so it's such a great film for comic book fans.
Unfortunately, I don't remember my first experience watching this movie back in 2008. I was in high school. I don't remember if I went to the theater or not. I don't remember if I watched it at home for the first time. But that doesn't matter, because as I watch it today, here in 2018, I still adore this movie. It is so good. There is a reason it is ranked so high on so many lists. It's just fantastic from start to finish. Jon Favreau as director, he did something that not a lot of people are able to do with superheroes. He made it realistic. He brought it down to earth. A lot of people were able to relate to it. And Robert Downey Jr. is just, he is fantastic. The perfect casting that Marvel has done for the past 10 years, it started with Robert Downey Jr.
Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Robert Downey Jr. playing Iron Man, which was very odd for me. I thought, he's like an actor. He's like a real actor. He's going to play a superhero. That's very strange. He's going to be Iron Man. How's that going to work? I didn't really know what to expect, man. But went to see that movie. I was back in Virginia with my dad, and nothing's been the same since.
Marvel has made some great casting decisions, obviously, but I think their most important one and best one is probably Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, just because the importance of starting this whole thing and getting the MCU going. Who knows, if they cast somebody else and it doesn't work, maybe the MCU never becomes what it is.
Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark / Iron Man is and forever will be one of the most perfect castings of all time. He is Tony Stark. He is Iron Man. Outside of life and in these movies.
I never had a taste for this sort of thing, but I must admit, I'm deeply enjoying the suit.
Oh, Jeff Bridges, the dude, as Obadiah Stane in this movie I think he's great. I think he's great. One of my only criticisms of the movie is once he actually gets in the suit, I think he starts to get a little ridiculous, a little bit campy. You can tell he's having fun with it. But, you know, that character, it's a criticism I have of a lot of comic movies where he just kind of goes nuts almost for no reason. But he does have his reasons. He cannot stand Tony Stark. He thinks he's a sniveling little brat. He tried to kill him, and it didn't work, and he's annoyed, and he wants to get rid of him.
Obadiah Stane in Iron Man, for me, was not one of the highlights of the movie. I personally kind of got a little bored with his villainy. I felt like he was one of the weaker villains, but for the progression of the Iron Man movies, I completely understand where they were trying to go with this.
So one of my probably top 3 MCU moments ever is when Iron Man breaks out of that cave with his homemade, cave-made Iron Man suit, and it looks like the original suit from the comics. I love that moment, and just the whole thing of what it means when he builds the suit in the cave with the guy, with the scientist in there, and how we get to see his relationship with that guy and the sacrifice he makes. And I just love that moment, the way this guy who grew up rich and grew up having everything he wanted, he had to go through this in order to get free and become who he was meant to be. I just think it's one of the best moments in any superhero movie ever. I love it.
Who the hell are you?
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh.
I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
The post-credit scene as Iron Man is probably one of the best that have ever been done. And the fact that Nick Fury showed up at Tony Stark's house after all the events that went down, and that famous line of, "You're part of a larger world than you realize." And I remember actually in my couple years of college, I did a PowerPoint on the Marvel Cinematic Universe at that point in time, and this was back in like 2012 or something, so near the Avengers. And I started off that PowerPoint with, there was an idea. And so that post-credit scene, it means so much. It's so important to this universe, and it started off all this interconnectivity that Marvel has done. And it's also just a really cool time. Like, I remember getting giddy watching that, the fact that Sam Jackson's Nick Fury is standing there being like, dude, you're part of something much larger than you freaking realize. And so I get excited every time I watch it because it leads into what comes next for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is all of these characters coming in together for not just the Avengers, but Infinity War with the Avengers, Guardians, and everything else.
You know, listen, you can make a case for this being number one. Again, any of these movies in the top 5 or 6 could probably be one. Because again, we're not having a discussion without it. And if this movie doesn't work, who knows what the entire comic book movie landscape would look like. So number 4 is fine. You know, I'd have it above another movie on our list that we're going to talk about. But it's fine. Top 5, as long as it's in there, it's good.